Hello and welcome F5 community to Dev Central's coverage of F5's quarterly security notification. I'm your host for the day, Aubrey King with Dev Central. In 2021, F5 moved to a quarterly security notification as opposed to releasing ad hoc CVEs as they came up in our products. We felt that this was a bit of a step to really simplify mitigation steps for our customers and also to minimize the potential downtime that might occur in any customer environments. Dev Central is teaming up with F5's Security Incident Response Team to bring you coverage today as it happens for the latest events, but we encourage all of our customers to check out ask.f5.com for any specifics about these CVEs, as well as any sort of information that might be pertinent to your specific environment. Disclosure and remediation, we feel, are key F5 security priorities and reflect our drive towards our commitment of constant improvement. With that said, I'd like to bring on my co-host for the day, Mr. Peter Silva. Peter, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Back-to-back shows with you this week, Aubrey.
Absolutely.
Good times.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a hectic week to try and prepare for all of these things kind of going on this week, and for me still being the new guy, you know, I'm glad we didn't have any hiccups on this morning's show as we did yesterday.
But we love it anyway.
Yes, that's right. We learn from every single show that we've got. And today we've got a pretty intriguing show for you. But before we kind of get into things, of course, we want to encourage you to click like and subscribe for all of the latest Dev Central updates so that you don't miss important disclosures and things like this particular pop-up show for our quarterly security notifications. So coming up today, we do have a couple of guests on the show. At some point, we'll be joined by our buddy Brian McHenry, who is these days on quarterly security notification days. He seems to be a very, very packed guy, but we will have him on as soon as we can get him here. And we also have our friend Aaron Brailsford, who is from the Security Incident Response Team and has been really kind of my cohort over the past few weeks. We've been really teaming up to try and bring some security news out to the community. So actually considering, why don't we ask Mr. Brailsford to come on? Aaron, how are you today?
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Yeah, I'm good.
Well, for you, it's afternoon. That's right? Yeah.
It is, yep. It's 4 o'clock. So.
Yeah, getting a little close there for me too, 11 o'clock, and yet only 8 a.m. for Peter. So how, I guess as long as we're all gathered here, before getting into the major details, any sense, Aaron, as far as kind of an overview of the CVEs that were released today? Any thoughts so far on what you've seen?
So far, I think important to note that we haven't seen any exploitation in the wild. There's no indications that this is going to make a great deal of noise so far. Can always be proven wrong, but so far, things have gone fairly smoothly today. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, knock on wood. Definitely exactly. Knock on wood for that one. Well, I do like to hear that, and it looks like Brian is here, and he is kind of backstage. I think probably taking care of his makeup, powder in his nose, and whatnot. So in the meantime, I'll let you guys know that we do have a link which will be provided as well at the end on the Persistent Show on YouTube and all over LinkedIn, etc. For our K article on this, which is K14649-763. So if you haven't checked out Ask F5 or support.f5.com for this specific K, I think you should probably take a look at that. And with that said, I'm going to add Mr. McHenry. Brian, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Doing real good. Seems to be a decent morning, as far as I can tell from what I've read on these CVEs. Was hoping to kind of get your take on the day so far. What do you think?
Well, certainly not the most severe batch of CVEs that we've ever announced. So it's always good when the product quality is holding fast. So proud of our product teams and the efforts that we put in to continuously improve the quality of all our software. That being said, the quarterly security notifications, I just want to reiterate our effort to address what we heard from customers over the last few years. Security researchers have become a much more active community in reporting vulnerabilities. I don't think we're suddenly less secure than we ever were before. In terms of the rate of CVEs we see announced across the whole industry. What we are is just much more conscious and much more inquisitive about the state of security of the hardware and software that we use to support our infrastructures. So as that has picked up over time, it creates a lot of stress, right? Back in the old days when I was a network engineer, once you got a piece of firmware on your router or switch or firewall that was working for you and was stable, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep that where it is. And so it's been an evolution for the industry to go from, Big IP has long been, considered a critical piece of network infrastructure, and has gotten that if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of maintenance attitude. So we're evolving together with our customers, and so we've heard the feedback that says, hey, these things are coming faster and more furious all the time. Unfortunately, the attackers, they can launch new attacks against vulnerabilities whenever they want. They can retool. They don't have any high availability commitments, SLAs to meet. Meanwhile, our customers do have to plan for maintenance windows. As I mentioned, I have a long career as a network engineer and security engineer before F5, which now is a long time in the rear view. But during that career, I know firsthand how painful emergency security windows or change windows can be. And so our customers are telling us, hey, you're issuing too many CVEs, and the fixes are coming, sort of ad hoc whenever they pop up, whenever they're discovered, and we're doing responsible, coordinated disclosure with researchers and ensuring we're doing the right things. But the timing was never something that worked well, right? I think we had the last one happened over like a 4th of July holiday or a Labor Day holiday, and it exacerbates the problem further, right? So what our customers have been asking for is, hey, could you tell us a little bit ahead of time? Of course, with responsible disclosure, we can't do that. But what we can do is make it more predictable. Now, again, I keep harkening back to the good old days of network engineering, but Microsoft's Patch Tuesday has been a staple of the industry for many years, and although none of us really looked forward to it, the predictability of that made it possible to plan those outage windows. It made it possible to ensure that you stayed as patched as possible with the minimum of disruption to your operating environment. And that's what the quarterly security notifications are all about. It's not meant to sound the alarm every quarter. There's going to be quarters like this one where there's only maybe a couple highs that have really good mitigations and no criticals. And so you don't have to necessarily scramble every quarter, but it gives you the predictability to say, hey, if there is something, I know when it's going to come, and I can make sure that I have a window planned just in case F5 has a critical that I really need to address right away. And then being able to plan takes a lot of the pain out of having to deal with patching, because whether it's our hardware or software from F5 or infrastructure hardware or software, or it's application stacks, it's Apache struts, which I think averages like an RCE like every 6 weeks or something like that. You think about it, we tell the industry, we tell all the practitioners, oh, just patch it, right? That's that we say, practice good hygiene, you wouldn't have these problems. But those of us who've been in the trenches and been practitioners know that it's not that simple. Changing out parts of the infrastructure, whether it's a minor upgrade of a version or a patch, can cause major disruptions if it causes a regression, has some sort of problem. So we need time to test to make sure we're not going to take our sites down. And as I've always said, even though security is like deep in my DNA, availability always trumps security. So nobody's going to say, hey, take that thing down rather than have it be up and insecure. The business is going to accept the risk to stay online and keep doing business. And so we've got to make it easier for you to stay secure and stay up, stay available. And so that's what this is all about. This is what the QSN is about. And certainly it's not a fixed process. If our customers out there who are listening to this live or later, if you have feedbacks about how to make our security notifications better, I'm taking that feedback. Aubrey and Pika, unwisely have their Twitter handles right there and their byline, so you can hit them up with suggestions. Aaron's insert, and certainly you can call our support and say, hey, I've got a suggestion for incident response. Could I talk to somebody? We'll take the feedback however you want to bring it in to constantly improve this process so that it works for you. So that the intention, again, of enabling you to patch and stay secure while not taking things down unnecessarily or in a way that's disruptive to your business. Because ultimately, all of what we do as technology professionals is support the operation of businesses.
Josh is going to miss, as you can see here, Brian, the late night patching Windows. Not to make light of it,
overnight. Of course. I mean, overnight is still probably the time that the business is going to tell you to do it. It just means you won't have to. You'll be able to plan ahead when you need to bring the sleeping bag out. So, I
think he was asking you for help, like just in case you're, available on a Saturday night, when everyone wants to be patching systems. But, it's funny. One of the things you said, you talked about hygiene. And, when I was talking to Aaron, actually, the other day, we were doing a quick interview for a video, which will be coming out actually after this live broadcast. You can find it on YouTube if you want to see the contents of it. But I think Aaron will be going over it, what we had to say today anyways. But one of the things we talked about was really trying to make sure that customers are on the latest patch revision. And when you do stay up to date, the moment that the CVEs hit, the idea at least is that you're already going to be protected from the CVEs that are released. That's at least kind of what I came to find out through my first time through QSN. And coincidentally, I'm working with F5 Labs to try to make a good recommendation in terms of versioning for customers. So I think, coming up prior to QSN next quarter, we will probably see the release of a good patching video to make sure that people are already thinking about that before QSN starts to creep up on us, so we don't have any of those emergency maintenances and things like that.
Yeah, so that's a good point, Aubrey. Like, some of the things that you're seeing announced today have been fixed for a while, right? And just embargoed. Right. So if you're staying on the latest and you come to QSN today and you say, oh, I'm already on the latest version, I'm good. So that's part of the benefit of staying up to date. Now in more recent versions, 15, 16, and 17, we've done a lot of work to make the upgrade process more seamless and more predictable and reliable. Because I know I've been there, as a 5 SE and seeing when upgrades gone wrong. It's not always fun. So we've done a lot of work to improve the upgrade process in more recent versions of software, and certainly it's one of the highest priorities for our Big IP Next, which will be coming soon to a Big IP near you. And so definitely stay on the latest version. We've added we've got major, minor maintenance endpoint releases to limit the scope of what's changed in the software and give you some predictability of what that scope is. So, through a number of different, QSNs, better version schema, as well as, improved upgrade processes, we're hoping that, it's easier to stay patched. Is ultimately, is really the goal. Is we're never going to have 100% bug-free software. It's until the robots take over and start writing it for us. Humans are going to write code, and code's going to have bugs. So we'll never get 100%, but we just got to make it easier to stay one step ahead of it.
100% agreed. Well, on that note, I think we probably want to get into some of the meat of the the actual vulnerabilities that are disclosed today. So I want to say, Brian, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yep.
I know our community always loves hearing from you, and you're welcome to stick around. But I was hoping that Mr. Brailsford would be able to, dazzle us with.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it to a much smarter person who can answer questions like the one Syed has in here about 13.1.5. Unfortunately, I do have to drop off, but happy to join the Dev Central crew sometime in the near future. It's been a few months since I was on a security sidebar, so let's find a reason to get together.
Absolutely, always great to see you, man.
Good to see you guys. Have a good day.
Thanks,
You
Brian.
too. Thanks, Brian. All right, so Aaron, the rumor on the street is you have a little bit of a presentation to show for us. So, do you want to take a stab at Syed's question there first, the security patch for 13.1.5? I think I know the answer, but it's actually always better coming from the experts.
Yeah, and we'll get to this a little bit more on slide 3. Don't worry, everybody. It's literally 3 slides.
Okay.
But when it comes to 13.1.5, actually, a number of these issues are patched in 13.1.5, but you're right. Some of these vulnerabilities aren't going to be fixed until the next release of 13, which is 13.1.5.1. That's actually going to be almost certainly the last release in the 13.1 train. 13.1 goes end of software development at the end of this year. And realistically, the closer we get to that time, the slower the release cadence gets for 13. If you're on 13, my advice would be be planning to move to a later release.
Yeah, like 14.
Yeah, at least 14. 15 or 16, great places to be as well. But at least 14.
Having seen a couple of customers get beyond, end of software development and into end of new software support, which is, it gets scary there. So I think that, what you said is absolutely pertinent. Upgrade to that latest release or somewhere greater than 13 if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Bear in mind that if something is disclosed post end of software development and it affects 13, not only will 13 not get any fixes, but we don't evaluate unsupported versions to see whether or not they're impacted. So you're leaving yourself in a completely unknown situation.
Okay.
So I brought up the specifics for you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Perfect.
If you want to take a stab at that, I think Peter and I will go grab a quick drink, and then we'll be right back.
All righty. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the sort of QSN process. Brian started talking about it earlier, and the improvements that we've been trying to make. We've moved to standard language and mitigations, and we are always improving on those standard languages. And what we're trying to do is preempt questions that people have. So if you do have feedback, like Brian said, please do reach out somehow to one of us in F5. As he also said, the predictability of the QSN cadence, the schedule is always published ahead of time. So as of now, we'll be publishing the date for the next QSN that'll be out in October. Yep, October the 19th. That's always published in that same article number, 122.01527. And we'll always publish an overview article. As we said earlier, that overview article is public now. 2 things to stress then, that there is no impact to any of F5's services like distributed cloud services, ThreatStack, Silverline, those offerings. And most of these issues are fixed in versions that are already released. So if you are on the latest release in a train, you'll be in a very good place already. I'll just quickly break down the kind of issues that are in this QSN. The good news is no criticals. So that's brilliant news. That takes a lot of pressure off everybody, I'm pretty sure. Doesn't necessarily mean you won't want to take a look at the QSN. There are still 12 highs. Those 12 highs are all denial of service vulnerabilities. They're all data plane. They are mostly specific to particular configurations. So you'll want to take a look at whether or not you are using that combination of products and features to see if you are impacted at all. Predominantly, these vulnerabilities impact Big IP. There are 3 that impact Big IQ as well. A couple of those are shared between Big IP and Big IQ. And 2 of them impact Nginx, and that's not Nginx Plus or Nginx App Protect. That's specifically Nginx Ingress Manager and Ingress Controller. 1 security exposure. One thing that I do want to call out on this page that looks incredibly alarming, but is really not as alarming at all, this unauthorized access over here. That sounds incredibly bad, right? That sounds like you don't need credentials to get onto a box, but actually the issue there is that a valid token, if you steal a valid token for the iControl REST interface from a legitimate authenticated user, you can continue to use that token after its expiry. So in order to exploit that, your attacker's already got to be in a privileged position in your network so that he can steal a valid token or have compromised some credentials, and then they can use that post-expiry. So it's nowhere near as bad as it sounds, at least from that 2-word outline. As always, as we said, we kind of recommend you install the latest release in your branch. All of these branches, all of these specific versions here are fixed for either all or as many as it's possible to be fixed for. And the only outlier there is 13.1.5, which doesn't fix all of the published vulnerabilities. Again, we really recommend getting off 13 if you can. I understand the challenges of actually doing that. It's not as easy as me saying upgrade from 13 to 14. The other thing to call out, I think, is that for one of these versions, so 16.1.3.1, it's still in the process of being published to the cloud marketplaces. So if you're running something deployed from, say, AWS Cloud Marketplace, and you're on 16.1.3, 16.1.3.1 will be there real soon, but unfortunately it did not quite make it ahead of August 3rd this time. That is something we're working to improve next time.
Hey, Aaron, can you go back one slide?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just guessing this potentially could be a question from our viewers. So the security exposures, both Big IP, ASM, and advanced WAF are, security devices. So I'm just maybe curious if you could expound a little bit on what those security exposures are.
Yeah, so there's one exposure. Both of those numbers refer to the same problem. It's specific to policies in advanced WAF that are decoding base64 values in parameters.
Okay.
And actually being vulnerable, or this actually being a problem in your environment, depends very much on what happens to those parameter values when they're consumed by your backend application.
Got it.
If you aren't decoding base64 anywhere, then you don't need to worry about this. There is a mitigation which you can apply on current versions, which basically will is slightly more sledgehammery than the way we'd like it to work effectively. But yeah, it's actually, again, it sounds quite alarming being a WAF bypass, right? But it's a very specific configuration. And in order for it to be useful, you need a very specific kind of backend application in place.
Got it. Okay.
That's a good question.
Hey, thanks.
It's a good job I remember that one off the top of my head too.
Now, did you touch on the Big IQ's impact as far as versioning as well?
So I didn't, but if I just flip back to the next slide. So 8.2.0 fixes the majority of the issues in Big IQ. There is at least one issue, which is specific to products deployed in AWS. The issue actually impacts both Big IP and Big IQ. It's fixed in Big IP. It's not yet fixed in Big IQ. it is specific to self IPs. So in terms of big IP, that's data plane, right? And that's obviously going to be exposed to untrusted networks. But in the case of big IQ, generally speaking, and I can't speak for everybody's big IQ deployment, but generally speaking, your self IPs will be exposed only to a trusted network, because that's how big IQ is going to administer big IPs, in which case your actual exposure is very limited indeed. There is a workaround if you are exposing those interfaces. You need to switch the network driver. There's some files you need to hand edit and restart the device. And you may lose a little bit of performance, which in the case of big IQ is probably not a big issue. In the case of big IP, I would probably prefer to update to the latest release if I could.
Okay. Now, I think if I remember correctly, there were some caveats for some of our versions out there in the cloud marketplaces. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. So I mentioned one of them earlier, which is that 16.131 is still in the process of being pushed to the cloud marketplace. If anybody watching this has dealt with releasing things into cloud marketplace, there's quite a lengthy approvals process everything has to go through, and it's quite sort of serial. So everything gets queued up, and then you wait for all of the things to happen. And the only other thing is that 17.001, so 17 itself isn't in the cloud marketplace. Therefore, that's less of an issue because you couldn't have been running a vulnerable version from the cloud marketplace.
Minimal exposure, minimal.
Exactly. And 17 will end up in the cloud marketplace, and when it does, it will be a patched version.
One other question I had, I'm curious. I haven't seen anywhere here on the QSN announcements at all today anything about F5 services. Was there impact at all in any of our cloud services?
No, all of that stuff has been evaluated, and obviously we work closely with cloud services. None of it is impacted, so zero impact to any services that we expose to customers.
That's good to hear. Definitely.
Very
Perfect.
much so.
Nice.
Okay. That's good. I'm not seeing any other kind of questions in the comments. If you're out there and you have any questions for Aaron or for myself or Peter, please feel free.
Actually,
Now
there was
is
one.
the time.
There was one earlier from Josh that came in a bit ago.
Oh.
More of a comment than
iRule.
a biggest hurdle on version 13 migration is vetting all the iRules and working up appropriate changes.
That is a pickle always. I know that from my time in sales, that was something that we recommended quite often, that F5 Pro services get involved for anything that's very complicated or whatnot. They're very used to dealing with the scenarios where iRules change and needing to actually update iRules just so a customer can go into a new version. So if that's something that is plaguing your environment, if you have iRules and you're nervous about whether or not you will be impacted by upgrading to the latest version, of course you can check with your field team. Your SE should be able to help you figure out whether or not you will be impacted. And if there is impact, of course, they can get you in touch with professional services for sure to make sure that you can get that up to date with the latest way to do your iRules, and then take that step into a new version. I think that 13 to 14 is, or 13 to 15. That's definitely pertinent data for those upgrades.
Yeah, if memory serves, 13 to 14 and later, at least when it comes to iRules, is one of the bigger sort of jumps, if you like. So I completely understand Josh's problem there. But I mean, you've still got to bear in mind that 13 goes end of software development in December, I think it is. So at that point, you're going to be stuck on a branch that's got no support or best effort support, but is not receiving any kind of fixes, including security fixes.
Yeah.
And for all you with version 9.4.1 out there, good luck. No,
I hope there are not still any 9.4 boxes out there, but wouldn't surprise me.
No, there. I guarantee there are probably like 8,000 1500s sitting there in someone's closet running DNS all day long on 9.4.1.
Yep. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You know, but that's
So
again to reiterate, our point to the QSN: fix it proactively. Fix it.
Yeah.
So once again, Aaron Kumar has a comment. So 13.1.5 is going end of sale the end of this calendar year.
Yeah, so it goes end of software development this calendar
Software
year.
development. Got it. Got it.
So 13, if I can find the right table, 13.1x, let's bear in mind it first shipped in 2017. It's quite long in the tooth. It goes end of software development on December 31st, 2022, which means no more fixes. It goes end of technical support December 31st, 2023, which means that we do still support it for a year after end of software development. But if you run into a bug, even if it's a new bug that nobody's ever seen before, it's only going to get fixed in 14x and later.
Right.
So yes, you have a year's sort of grace, but it's not a particularly useful grace period.
The bad guys never give you grace.
No, that is very true. And I mean, one of the things that is good about this QSN, if we go back to this, is no criticals. And we know that this is true of everybody, not just F5. Critical vulnerabilities are generally weaponized in minutes, hours at most, maybe 24 to 48 hours. But there aren't any criticals. There aren't any unauthenticated control plane vulnerabilities sitting here, right? This is relatively controlled. And yes, there are some denial of service vulnerabilities, but we don't typically see those weaponized en masse. What attackers mostly want to do, and I'm generalizing a little bit, is break into networks. Like denial of service is commodity these days. It's not,
right.
It's not it's not a high value attack. Breaking into a network is.
No doubt about that.
And the criticals would include things like remote code execution, the RCEs that people, generally their hair gets on fire about.
Exactly.
So good.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Okay.
Looks like
I think the comments are beginning to slow down here. So I think I'm going to probably give it a call. I mean, it seems as though, the minute this morning I heard that there were, no criticals, it was kind of like the first thing that went off in my head was like the end of Return of the Jedi, when they have like the party on Endor and the party on Coruscant and all that stuff. It's just a big celebration. Yes, you get a medal, Aaron. Absolutely. I do not. I don't know about Peter, but so I guess.
Well, my wife always asks if I want a chest to pin it on, and I say I want both. I want a medal and one of the other things. But not to make light of all this, if you guys have any questions, concerns, you can certainly post those on community.f5.com. You can hit us up on the Twitters at DevCentral. I think we had Aaron's Twitter up there earlier. Certainly, if you're watching this after the live broadcast, go ahead and drop in a comment. We always do our best to reply and respond to those comments. So don't think that once this broadcast is over, you can't continue to ask questions, or if you have wonders, of course, support.f5.com, community.f5.com, and
and hello to our pal Megazone. Good to see you out there, buddy. Thanks for your hard work over this QSN.
Yeah, if anybody deserves a medal over the QSN, it's MC. So he does a whole lot of hard work around these.
Absolutely.
Every QSN.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Well, I guess, I want to say thank you definitely, Aaron, for coming on the show. Always, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. We love working with you, man. So thank you.
Anytime. Happy to be here.
All righty. Well, with that, I'm going to probably kind of start to kick this over. Remind you guys to definitely hit like and subscribe on this video and check out all of our videos. When you subscribe, to Dev Central, you're able to get notifications for all of these, imperative shows, these pop-ups, and things that we do out there. Also, don't forget there are a couple of jobs out there at F5. If you are interested in working at F5 and helping with things like these quarterly security notifications, we are always looking for people who love security as much as we do. So take a look out there. And one other thing to mention, don't forget that Peter and Boo and I are going to be at Black Hat. So if you are at Black Hat on the 10th or 11th, I guarantee you we're going to have a Find the Booth video, or going to try our hardest to get a Find the Booth video. That's one of the most requested videos I've seen since joining the team. So we'll make sure that you know where to find us and how to get your selfie taken with Peter Silva. On that note,
yeah. So this time around, like RSA, if you can't make the Black Hat, we're really going to try to just sort of give you a bit of experience via video next week at Black Hat. We'll have another QSN coming up. I think it was October 19th.
That's right. Yep.
And always appreciate you guys joining us.
That's
guys
right.
And gals.
Thank you, everybody, F5 community, and definitely have a great F5 day. Hello and welcome, F5 community. In November of 2021, F5 began to release quarterly security notifications instead of ad hoc CVEs in an effort to simplify our customers' mitigation steps and to minimize response times and outages in the environments that they protect. At Dev Central, we're teaming up with F5's Security Incident Response Team, or CERT. We'll be delivering coverage throughout the day to bring the absolute most up-to-date information to the community. Customers should check the security advisories on Ask F5 to get more information on these issues and to get details on recommended mitigations. We recommend that customers ensure they are running the most current and applicable version to optimize the security and performance of their systems. Quarterly security notifications align the public communication of vulnerabilities and security exposures across F5 deployable offerings into one date each quarter. Vulnerability disclosure and remediation is a key part of F5 security practices and a reflection of our efforts to stay vigilant and focused on constant improvement.